Well, literature genres. In this video, we shall study a poem, Stopping by on a Snowy Evening. This poem is written by Robert Frost. Robert Frost was born in the year 1874 and was died in 1863. This poem was published in the year 1920. Robert Frost was not just a poet, he is a short story writer. He is considered to be the national of America. His works was initially published in England before his works were published in the United States. In all the poems written by Robert Frost, he has used realistic depictions of village or rural life. And in those poems, he has used only the colloquial speech of the common people so that people could understand the language of the Robert Frost. He has frequently wrote about the setting from the village life in New England. He was very famous in the early 20th century. After reading the poems of Robert Frost, we could easily distinguish between the complex of the social and philosophical themes. The main idea of the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening that in this poem there was a person who's describing about the beauty of the forest. When he is riding on a horse alone, fortunately he is entering into the forest. By the evening time, the forest is filled with snow. The snow continuously falling on all over the trees of the forest. So the entire forest become covered with snow. The snow is constant in falling. That gives a beautiful atmosphere to the forest and to the eyes of the poet. In this poem, there are 4 stanzas. Each stanza has 4 lines. The poet begins the first stanza as, "Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow." In the first stanza, the poet asks himself that, who is the owner of the forest? I think I know. He says that, I think I know who is the owner of the forest. His house is in the village though. His house is not nearby the forest, but his house is located in the village, which is far away from the forest. So, the owner will not see the person who is stopping in his forest to watch the forest which is filled with the snow. Next stanza. In the second stanza, as he is riding on a horse and is now watching the beautiful atmosphere of the forest, his horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near between the woods and a frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. When the poet is enjoying the beautiful atmosphere of the forest, his horse must think that about the owner. The owner is nothing but the poet. So the horse may be thinking that the owner may have misguided. He might have wrongly entered the forest instead of returning to his house. Of course, he is actually returning to his home after finishing a job in a city. So from the city to his home, he is returning to his house. On the way, he saw the beautiful forest. So the horse thinks that the owner should have traveled towards his house instead of standing in the forest. So the horse says to itself that in order to instead of going to the house, the poet has stopped the horse caught in the forest for a long time. Since there is no farmhouse there is no farmers and there is no people inside the forest. Why has the poet has stopped me? It says, the horse says. Where is stop? Between the woods and the frozen lake. So the poet has stopped his horse between the forest and the lake. The lake is looking as if it's a frozen lake due to the snow. The entire lake has become solid. Water is become solid like ice. So between the woods and the frozen lake, poet has stopped himself and the horse. Now both of them are standing between the forest and the frozen lake. When in the darkest evening of the year. So the time he is standing, the day he is standing in the forest is full of darkness. The particular day has a longest night of the year. It may be a winter time, it may be the time that full of darkness may be longing, maybe existed for a long time than the other days. And in the third stanza, since the horse gets vision of why the poet has stopped me in the forest, in order to ask the poet, the horse shakes its bell. He says he gives his harness bell a shake to ask if there is some mistake. So the horse gets confusion that if there is a mistake in the poet's mind, so it shakes its head so that the sound around the horse neck, the bell is tied. So when it's shaking, the bell will be sound. The bell will produce sound that will alert the poet to tell to the horse that why did he stop in the forest. So the only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. So other than the sound of the bell, what sounds the poet is listening? That the sound of the wind and the sound of the downy flake, the sound of the snow. So he can get the sound of snow falling, wind sound and the sound of the bell. These three sounds only he can listen, he says in the second stanza. And in the fourth stanza, which means the final stanza, says, though he is enjoying the beautiful atmosphere of the forest, he has so many responsibilities he has to fulfill, because on the way to his home he saw this beautiful forest and stopped and was attracted to the beauty of the forest, but he is not at continued traveling towards his house where his family is waiting. He has a wife, children are waiting for the return of the father, the return of the husband. So now he remembers that, oh, I have so many responsibility, but I have been tempted by the beauty of the forest. Immediately I have to return to my home, he says. So the woods are lovely, dark and deep. So the forest is so attractive. They are so dark and deep. I cannot give a long time seeing and enjoying the beautiful atmosphere of this forest, but I have promises to keep. I have so many responsibilities. Promises in the sense responsibilities, social responsibility, family responsibilities that I have to fulfill. I cannot spend whole my life only on this forest enjoying its beauty, but I have to spend my life on the social responsibility, or I have to take care of my family, children, wife and my parents. So he says in the last two lines of the final stanza that, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Sleep in the sense it is not that we are taking a rest on the bed, but sleep in the sense death. So before one dies, one has so many responsibilities to fulfill. This is the couplet very famous when Jawaharlal Nehru was on the bedridden. He used to remember this poem, and he's written this couplet on his diary, reminding everyone that miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Though he was the former prime minister, he held the highest position, but he is not accepted that he has fulfilled all the responsibilities. Though he is about to die, even in that time he's written these lines, miles to go before I sleep. So it is to everyone that we have so many responsibilities before we die. So before we die, we have to fulfill all our social and family responsibilities. Whatever happens to our life, we should not be tempted to one thing, we should not be attracted to one thing. Meanwhile, we should be taking care of the other responsibilities. This is what the poet has tried to explain to us through this poem, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. The theme of the poem is social obligation, the personal desire. There is a dilemma between the personal desire and the social responsibilities. Which is more important, that social responsibility than the personal desire? We may have personal desire, we may have spent on personal matters like chatting with the friends and playing with a mobile phone, watching movies, but we should not forget to take care of our family responsibilities. So in this poem, the poet is in dilemma that he's enjoying himself being in the forest, but his family is waiting for his return, so he has to take care of the family. Also, he wants to be enjoying the beautiful atmosphere of the forest. And another theme, hesitation and joy. He seems to be very hesitating which one to take, whether the family responsibility or this forest atmosphere, that he wants to spend too much time on seeing this atmosphere. So he is in a hesitation. This is a theme been portrayed in this poem. When we're talking about the meter of the poem is iambic tetrameter, because in all the four stanzas each line has 8 words, 4 words unstressed and 4 words stressed words. Whose unstressed, woods stressed, these unstressed, are stressed, I unstressed, thing stressed, I unstressed, no stressed. Like that, the metrical of the poem has been formed by the poet. Rhyme scheme also start with A, B, B, C, B, C, C, D, C, and D, 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 D. Like that, the structure of the poem also has been formed by the poet. I hope that this poem is useful for you and you have understood of this poem. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, like and share to your friends. Thank you.